I'm Alice Sinclair, 31 years old, the youngest daughter in a family that looks immaculate from the outside. Old money, Boston addresses, private schools, and a legacy my grandfather built brick by brick. I work in cybersecurity, tracing fraud for a living, yet in my own family I've always been the quiet one, the expendable one, standing in the shadow of an older brother groomed to inherit everything I never wanted. I learned early how to stay invisible at the dinner table, how to swallow disappointment and pretend it didn't hurt when my ideas were dismissed and my presence treated as optional. I told myself it didn't matter, until the night I thanked my grandfather for a $300 check and watched confusion flood his eyes as he leaned closer and whispered that he had given me $30,000 instead. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just the outsider anymore. I was standing at the edge of something dangerous, and someone in my family had already decided I wouldn't survive what came next. Rain spit across the tall windows of the Sinclair penthouse, streaking the city view like claw marks. Inside, the dining room glittered with cold light, crystal glasses, a too-shiny silver turkey knife, 6 people pretending to enjoy each other's company. "Looks like the rain's not letting up," Ethan said, pouring wine without looking at anyone. His Rolex caught the light. Everything about him shimmered like control. Verena lifted her glass. "It's just weather. Nothing lasts forever." "Some things do," Grandfather muttered, sawing at his turkey like it was a war crime. His hands were slower now, but his mind usually was sharp. I unfolded the pale blue envelope he'd handed me before dinner. A check. Neat handwriting. $300. I smiled.
Thank you, Grandpa.
"That's really sweet of you." He stopped mid-cut. Knife still in the meat. Slowly turned to me. "I gave you 30,000, he said. Silence. Verena's chair creaked. "Dad, no, you meant 300. He looked at her, then back to me. "I wired it. August 14th. I remember because it was the day you sent that article about deepfake scams. Smart stuff." No one breathed. Ethan cleared his throat. "Alice, you should check your account. Maybe it was a glitch." I nodded, pretending to shrug it off. But something crawled down my spine. Grandpa had a memory like steel. He didn't confuse numbers. Ever. Later, after dessert, I helped Grandpa back to his room. He leaned in close as we reached the door. "They took it," he whispered. "But I didn't sign anything. I swear." Before I could ask what he meant, Verena appeared. "You'll catch cold, Dad," she said, slipping between us with a folded blanket. She didn't look at me. "Alice, can you grab his pills?" The moment fractured. I left the room, but didn't go for pills. I went for my phone. Back in my suite, I logged into the old joint account Grandpa had opened for me when I turned 18. Emergency only, he'd said. I'd used it once for a broken laptop in college.
Paid it back.
Balance, $547.38. I tapped through the transaction history. A hiccup. Then, August 14th, incoming wire transfer, $30,000. August 15th, outgoing transfer, $29,900, account ending in 3812. Memo, real estate consulting. I sat down. My pulse thudded in my ears. The memo was a lie. I'd never authorized anything. I checked the IP log, Bridgeport, Connecticut. I hadn't been home in months. I moved to call the fraud hotline, but stopped. The screen flashed a new notification. Account settings changed, two-factor authentication reconfigured. Date, August 10th. Method, SMS to 203, minus 4,397. My old high school number. A SIM I hadn't used in over a decade. One Verena kept in a kitchen drawer, just in case. The lights flickered. Rain intensified. I stood, staring at the screen. A whisper in my head. They took it. But I didn't sign anything. My finger hovered over the call button. Then a sharp knock at the door. I froze. 3 knocks. A pause. Then a fourth. No one knocks like that. I crossed the room, barefoot on the marble. Reached for the handle. On the floor beneath the door, an envelope. No stamp. No name. Inside, a photo. Blurry. A screen capture from a surveillance cam.
Me.
Add an ATM. Timestamp. August 15th, 3:22 a.m. I wasn't even in the state. Below the photo, typed on clean white paper. The money's gone, Alice. And, if you dig too deep, you might be next. The elevator jerked as it hit the lobby. I stepped out into the marble silence of a Sinclair tower, gripping the envelope tighter in my coat pocket. The photo. The fake ATM image. No note. No sender. Someone wanted me scared. I walked fast. Not running. Running would say too much. Boston was cold that night, the kind of cold that sank into your bones and whispered truths you'd tried to bury. Paranoia is just pattern recognition with a survival instinct. I'd said that to a client once. Now it looped in my head like static. My apartment smelled like citrus cleaner and something off. Not wrong. Just out of rhythm. I scanned the locks.
Secure.
Lights off. Mail untouched.
Still.
Something shifted. I booted my laptop. The glow of the screen hit like a slap. Opened the banking dashboard. Same interface. Familiar fonts. Deceptively calm. Transaction history. August 14th. Incoming wire. $30,000. August 15th. Outgoing. $29,900 to account ending in 3812. Memo. Real estate consulting. My heart was pounding in my ears. I clicked into IP logs. An old habit. What you see on the surface is never the real story. Bridgeport, Connecticut GeoIP said the access was from a home address I hadn't visited since last July. I wasn't there, but someone was. I moved fast, opened the digital signature log. A two-factor authentication was used. Method: SMS to 203 minus 4,397. My old high school number. Verena still had that SIM. She kept it for emergencies. Apparently, robbing your daughter counted.
I didn't feel shocked.
Just cold. I hit Sloane's number. 3 rings. A click. Jesus, Al, you're calling this late. Is it real? It's real. They spoofed my old phone. I think they used my identity to authorize the withdrawal. You need to send me the metadata.
Now.
I send it. 10 seconds later, her voice dropped. This isn't just a spoof. Someone cloned your digital signature. Your certificate's been compromised. How would they even get that? A pause. You ever plug into a port at your family's place? I didn't answer. Alice, her voice tightened. That fake ATM photo? It's not just fake. It's deep fake surveillance. Someone ran it through a motion sim engine. They're building a trail. A trail of lies. In my name.
Cutscene.
I moved to my window. Looked down. A black SUV parked across the street. Engine running. Headlights off. No movement inside. I blinked.
Gone.
Phone buzzed again. Sloane sent a string of coordinates and timestamps. That transaction? It's not the only one. The same offshore routing numbers show up tied to Sinclair Family Holdings. And there's another alias, Rothmare and Bell, Shell Corp based in Miami. I sat down hard. Miami? That account that got your $29,900? It's linked to a Miami-based consultancy. All paper. No people. How many transactions? Too many.
Breathe.
I pulled out the envelope from the door again. Rechecked the photo. The ATM in the image, subtle detail I'd missed before, didn't match any machine I'd ever used. Different interface. Back to my screen. Searched metadata embedded in the image file. Location pinged to Vermont. That made no sense.
Distraction.
Someone was feeding me breadcrumbs. Wrong ones. Another ping. New email. Encrypted. No sender. Subject line. Stop looking. The body. You got a gift. Let it go. Or the next message won't be digital. Another window opened by itself. I didn't click anything. My system was being accessed remotely. I yanked the Ethernet cable. Screen went black. I was shaking now. Not from fear. From anger. They were inside my life, Inside my machine, inside my name. You can lie to the world, but not to the data. I grabbed a duffel. External hard drive. Burner phone. Backup SIM.
Cut scene.
Midnight. I stood in the hallway outside my apartment. My breath visible. Muffled steps echoed from the stairwell. I didn't move. A shape passed the frosted glass panel at the end of the hall.
Slow.
Deliberate. Not a neighbor. Someone was checking the doors. My door. I stepped back, silent. Hand on the doorknob. Deadbolt still in place. Footsteps stopped.
Then.
A soft knock. Not the rhythmic kind. Just one. Like a test. A beat of silence. Then retreating steps. I waited. 10 seconds.
20.
Opened the peephole. Empty. A note on the floor. If someone spoofed my identity, who the hell has access to me? Bank lobbies smell like fear. Polished marble, fake smiles, and that sterile air freshener that never quite hides the nerves. I walked into Eastwood Trust on Federal Street like I belonged there because I did. My name was on the account, or at least it had been. Miss Sinclair, the clerk said, smiling like a spreadsheet. You called about a transaction discrepancy? I need to see the authorization documents, I said.
Calm. Cold.
All of them. Wire history, signature logs, power of attorney forms. Everything tied to account ending in 2941. He blinked. Of course. Please wait in room 3.
Cut scene.
Glass walls. Frosted edges. A conference room designed for deals and denials. A minute later, 2 people walked in, clerk, plus a woman in a gray blazer with a tablet. I'm Laura, compliance officer. This won't take long. She clicked through her screen. So, you're questioning a wire made on August 15th. That transfer was authorized under a standing power of attorney filed just days before, August 10th. I blinked once. I never signed a power of attorney. She turned the tablet toward me. You did. According to this. The screen showed a high-resolution scan. My name. My signature. Neatly printed. I stared at it. The curve of the S. The loop in the R. It was perfect. But I hadn't signed it. That's not real, I said. It matches your previous documents. Because it was copied. I leaned in. I want to see the metadata. The certificate log. Who uploaded this form? Another pause. She looked down. It came from a verified Sinclair family email.
Of course it did.
I stood. I'll be back. With my attorney. Laura didn't look surprised.
Cut scene.
Outside, the wind scraped against the city. A cab splashed past. I walked fast. Called Sloan. They faked a power of attorney, I said. Of course they did, she replied. You think this ends at 30 grand?
No. No, I didn't.
Back at my place, I cracked into the certificate logs. The digital signature tied to that form. It was mine. Or it had been. Reused. Lifted from an old college lease I'd once signed through DocuSign. Re-encoded. Backdated. Whoever forged that form had access to the Sinclair family archives. Which meant one of them did it.
Verena?
Too obvious. Someone smarter.
Cut scene.
That night, I confronted her. My mother.
Kitchen.
Midnight. Red wine staining her glass like a confession. You stole from me, I said. She didn't flinch. Just looked at me the way she always had, as if I were a problem she hadn't solved yet. Don't be dramatic. I saw the documents. She took a sip. Sometimes, Alice, you don't know what's best for you. You forged my name. You never used that account. You didn't even know the money was there. I do now. That changes nothing. Lightning cracked outside. Lit the kitchen like a scene from a crime thriller. For a moment, I saw the truth in her eyes. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even scared. You always wanted to be the invisible one, she said. Now you're getting what you wanted. My jaw clenched. This isn't over. She shrugged. Maybe not. But I wouldn't dig too far. Some coffins are meant to stay shut. I walked away before I screamed.
Cut scene.
3 hours later. My apartment.
Darkness.
Sloan sent a file. Encrypted.
Heavy.
I decrypted it. Inside. Banking records. Shell accounts. Transfers. Not just mine. A dozen others. All linked to one name. Ethan Sinclair. The golden boy.
The heir.
The clean one. But Ethan wasn't just playing clean. He was laundering family money. And mine was just the test run. I stared at the final page. A wire transfer. $1,200,000.
Same day.
Same memo. Real estate consulting. But this time, the origin account wasn't mine. It was Grandpa's. The same day he gave me the $30,000. He'd been robbed too. Which meant this wasn't just theft. It was a system. And Ethan was running it. He never wanted the money. He wanted to erase me. The storm rolled in without warning. Boston went dark in sections, block by block, like someone flipping switches for fun. Sirens echoed somewhere distant, then vanished. I packed fast. Laptop. External drive. Burner phone. The USB Sloan flagged as critical. I didn't call anyone. Calls leave traces. Silence keeps you alive. I stepped into the stairwell. Emergency lights glowed red. My breath sounded too loud. I kept thinking about a line I once told a trainee. Power doesn't announce itself. It edits the room until you don't notice what's missing. Tonight, what was missing was safety.
Cut scene.
Sloane's place sat near the river, a converted brownstone with bad plumbing and great Wi-Fi. Or it had been. The front door was ajar. Wood splintered at the latch. I didn't rush in. I listened.
Wind. Rain.
A distant generator coughing. Inside, the smell hit first. Burnt plastic. Ozone. A dead, electrical tang. Her living room was a crime scene without the tape. Monitors smashed, cables torn out like veins. A chair overturned. No blood. That was the mercy. On the kitchen counter, her phone lay face down.
Cracked.
I picked it up with my sleeve. Voicemail. One saved draft.
Her voice, low.
Controlled. They knew I was helping you. This goes beyond your mom, Alice. They're cleaning house. Don't trust.
Static.
The file cut off. I scanned. No cameras. No movement. Then I saw it. A small reading lamp by the couch, its base loose. I twisted. A USB popped free. Smart. Paranoid.
Sloan.
I pocketed it and backed out the way I came. As I reached the sidewalk, headlights flared at the corner. A black SUV. No plates. I ran.
Cut scene.
The engine roared. Tires screamed. Rain blurred the street into a smear of light and metal. I cut left, vaulted a low fence, slammed through a gate into a service alley. My lungs burned. My shoes slipped on oil-slick concrete. A thought cut through the noise. Survival isn't about speed. It's about choices you make before panic. I ducked behind a dumpster, killed my phone, waited. The SUV rolled past, slow. A window lowered. A face inside. Watching. When it moved on, I bolted for my car.
Cut scene.
The drive was a tunnel. Wipers at full speed. My hands shook on the wheel. I plugged the USB into a reader and let the files stream to the dash display. Accounts. Shells. Layers. Transfers braided like rope. Sinclair money flowed into Verina's trusts, then out through a Miami consultancy, then into a construction fund tied to, my stomach dropped, Sinclair Holdings. Ethan's empire. A note embedded in the logs blinked open. Time-stamped.
Typed.
Test phase complete. They weren't stealing randomly. They were proving a system. Using my identity. Using Grandpa's authority. Using Verina as cover. I merged onto the Longfellow Bridge. The SUV came out of nowhere. It hit me from behind. Hard. Metal shrieked. The car fishtailed. I corrected, heart pounding, rain hammering the windshield like gravel. Another hit.
Sighed this time.
I remembered another line, one Grandpa loved to repeat when he taught me to drive. Fear lies to you about distance. I waited for the lie, then cut the wheel. My car clipped the guardrail. Sparks exploded. The SUV swerved, overcorrected, smashed into the barrier, and dropped into the lower lane in a cascade of metal and glass. I didn't stop.
Cut scene.
I parked under a hospital garage and sat there shaking until the world slowed. Sirens wailed somewhere behind me. Not for me. Not yet. I opened the USB again.
Deeper this time. There was an audio file.
Grandpa's voice. Recorded weeks ago. Alice, he said, tired but clear. If you're hearing this, it means they crossed the line. I kept quiet because silence buys time. But time ran out. I didn't give you 30,000 by accident. I needed you free, out from under their reach. My throat tightened. I tried to protect the family, he continued. I failed. Don't make my mistake. The file ended. I closed my eyes. A truth settled, heavy and cold. Verena had enabled it, but Ethan had engineered it. The shell companies, the intimidation, the cleanup, silencers. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A man's voice.
Calm.
Professional. Alice Sinclair. This is Cam Voss. We need to talk. You're not the only one he's tried to erase. How did you get this number? A pause. Because he wants you scared. And because I don't. I stared at the concrete pillar in front of me. The damp. The echo. Meet me, he said.
Now.
And don't bring anyone you love. The line went dead. I started the engine. Ethan wasn't just laundering money. He was eliminating anyone who knew. The elevator climbed without sound. Tinted glass. Polished chrome. A metal box slicing through the bones of Sinclair Holdings, all the way to the top floor. My reflection stared back at me in the mirrored doors. Wet hair, cracked lip, eyes that hadn't slept in 27 hours. You don't win in silence. You survive in it. The doors slid open to the private conference suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The skyline bled gray behind thick glass. The room was full.
Ethan. Verena.
Our corporate counsel, Randall Glass. Two executives I didn't recognize, pretending not to be bored. A setup. I stepped in, USB in hand. Good morning, Alice, Verena said. Perfectly calm. Perfectly cruel. We were worried you might miss your own intervention. I'm not the one who needs one. Randall gestured toward a chair. Let's keep this civil. I didn't sit. Let's cut the theater, I said. You used Grandpa's trust account to launder money through offshore shells. You faked my power of attorney to test the system. And now you're using Sinclair Holdings to wash the full pipeline. Ethan chuckled. You've been reading too many crime blogs. I clicked the USB into the tabletop console. The screens came alive. Data. Transaction logs.
Dates.
Routing paths. Everything Sloan decrypted.
Clean. Organized.
Unstoppable. Verena's smile didn't move. The executives glanced at each other. One coughed. I tapped the final folder. A voice recording. Grandpa's. You've gone too far, I said. And this time he didn't stay quiet. Verena leaned forward, her voice low. You have no idea what you're doing. That's the thing, I said. I used to believe that. Now I know better. The doors opened again. Everyone turned. Griffin Hale walked in.
Alive. Calm.
Holding a federal badge. Behind him, two men in plain suits. Serious eyes. Griffin placed a folder on the table. Federal subpoenas. Financial Crimes Division. This meeting is now a matter of law. Randall stood. You can't. We can. Griffin cut in. And we are. Ethan stood slowly. His hands clenched. You think this scares me? No, I said. I think it exposes you.
Cut scene.
Griffin handed Verena a printed transcript. This is the authorization trail for every wire tied to Sinclair Holdings in the last 3 quarters. All signed digitally. Most from your IP. Her hand trembled slightly. She covered it by reaching for her water. Everything we did, Ethan said, his voice rising, was to protect the family. There's a line between protection and control, I said. You burned that line months ago. He moved suddenly. Too fast. Pulled something from his coat. Not paper. Metal.
Gun. Gasps.
Randall dove under the table. The exec scrambled. I didn't move. Griffin did.
Fast.
Training fast. He tackled Ethan, slamming him against the conference table. Guns skidded across the floor. Verena screamed. Security poured in seconds later. Ethan was cuffed. Still yelling. You think this ends with me? He spat. You think I'm the only one? Blood on his lip. His tie ripped. You can arrest the name, he hissed. You'll never touch the system.
Cut scene.
The room emptied. Griffin turned to me. You okay? I don't know. You will be. I looked at the shattered glass where the gun had hit the window. The sky outside was clearing. But something else was breaking too. He never wanted the money. He wanted to erase me. The air was different now. Quiet.
Cold.
Final. I stood in the front room of my grandfather's old house, the place where every Sinclair legacy began and, maybe, where it finally came undone. Wooden floors. Glass doorknobs. Dust in the corners. The past doesn't echo, it lingers. A lawyer from the estate handed me the final documents. One envelope. Heavy. Inside, a single sheet. The amended will. Dated weeks before the $30,000 transfer. Notarized.
Clean.
To Alice Sinclair, I leave the remaining assets and company shares. This is not a reward. This is a correction. I read it twice. Then again. Verena had tried to suppress it. Ethan had tried to override it. But Grandpa had made a different decision. Not because I earned it. Because I saw what they refused to. You fight back not when you're strong, Grandpa once told me. You fight back when there's no other honest choice.
Cut scene.
Ethan pled guilty to 3 counts of wire fraud, obstruction, and identity manipulation. Verena was under federal investigation for financial complicity. She hadn't spoken to me since the day of the arrest. She didn't have to. Her silence said everything. I kept the company's shares. Not because I wanted power, but because I knew what they'd do with it if I didn't. Sinclair Holdings restructured within a month. The shell companies dissolved. Griffin worked pro bono to make sure every cent laundered was tracked, documented, and filed with the SEC. Cam Voss disappeared after giving one final warning. They were just the branch. The roots deeper. You'll feel it when it moves again. I haven't heard from him since.
Cut scene.
Tonight, I sat at the window. Rain again. Softer this time. The kind of storm that doesn't destroy, just reminds you what you survived. My phone buzzed. Sloane's name.
Alive.
Hiding. Safe. The message was one line. They weren't just using you. They were building around you. Watch the names coming up in the trust court filings. It's not over. I didn't respond. I saved the message. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's control.
Cut scene.
The fire crackled. I lit a single candle, not for peace, but for clarity. The truth isn't loud. It waits. I looked around the house and didn't see wealth or bloodlines or legacy. I saw choices. Failures. And one last gift from a man who never stopped believing I could do more than survive. This wasn't about the 30,000. It never was. It was about not letting someone else write my ending. Some people inherit money. Some inherit war. I inherited both. But for once, the war was mine to finish.